Hello and welcome back to Undecided Tarot Name. This is a video response to Tarot is Magic that has kind of resurfaced. This tag is Let's Be Tarot Friends. It was resurfaced by Danny Mystic, which is where I first encountered it. I believe it was resurfaced. I was looking up Danny Mystic's channel and happened to find this tag and got super excited. I have only watched Danny Mystic's and then Tarot is Magic's video on this, so there might be some nuances and stuff that have come out of the community that I didn't realize were things or not. But I just was like really excited looking at the questions because I thought this would be a fun, kind of a good get to know me, but also a really, just like, it's been interesting to see other people's responses, which has been really, really cool. So yeah, we're going to look at some decks that I have along with some of my opinions and everything. It'll be fun, I think. So, and our first question is, what type of art do you look for? And I pulled all my decks and everything, and I was looking at them and I realized I pull a lot of animals and very cartoony style of art. I like things that look like art pieces. I don't want a very realistic deck. I just really want something that's I can sink into. Pip deck wise, I am hit and miss. I don't feel like I know the cards well enough to just like see 3 of Cups and then know what that is. So there is something for me to like go off of with imagery, which is why I think I still lean into imagery so heavily right now. The second question is, what do you search for in a deck? I think it's the same thing. It's an art style thing for me. I'm not somebody who is like particular, and I suppose Rider-Waite-Smith based kind of a things. I actually have a really hard time with oracles, I think, for this reason, because they're so loose with the rules that I'm a little like, what do? I don't know. Yeah, I don't ever know what to do with them. So yeah, I don't know. It's so dependent on the deck, I guess. So what are you most intrigued by right now, or what deck are you most intrigued by right now and why? It's going to be this deck, the Neopets Tarot. I have it in 2 versions. This is the one that you can get off of Geekify, and then I do have the Fairy Edition as well, which I think is more of their like mass market one. I do have a review and stuff on the differences between the 2 on my channel if you are interested. But yeah, I've been thinking for a long time about doing a deep dive into this deck and like looking up every single character, going into the guidebook, going into the art, talking about the characters, and doing a deep dive on each single card, so that if you don't know the Neopets lore, it's kind of a crash course of here's what you need to know for this deck to really get the most out of it. But also, I think it's important to appreciate how much work these artists put into this, because a lot of these are really well thought through. I don't know a ton of the lore as well, which is something that I would like to know a bit more. So I want to go through and figure out more things, but every time I have known something, I have just been like blown away by like, oh, that's such a great way. I would love to go through this deck and like do a really in-depth, like, let's go through the entire Major Arcana. Let's go through the wands. Let's go through the swords and like look at how they tie and what they would tie in with the Rider-Waite-Smith. I think that would be really cool, along with like, what is the thing that makes this unique? I think that can be really, really important and really interesting. So yeah, there's just like so many good cards in here. I love this deck. I love this deck so much. I'm so obsessed. It's ridiculous. Cheat this game. Cheat for 9 of Swords. That like, I'm at the bottom, that I'm losing, everybody's above me, like this scared anxiety. Oh, this is just, you can't tell me this isn't well thought through. Like, I love this deck. The 2 of Swords. It's the 2 Academy Masters. You guys, like, there's so much stuff in here that is so good. The next question is there a card you always check out first in a deck and why? This is kind of stolen in a sense because I heard Lisa Pepez talk about looking up the Devil card, and I have now forever looked at the Devil card of a deck before I buy it, and I'm glad I've started doing that because it's definitely broken decks for me, because I did not do that with this one, and it has it's not my favorite devil depiction, is just the honest. And I think it's part of why I have a hard time connecting with this deck. If you frequently watch my pick a card readings of Neopet stuff, I don't use this deck very often because I don't connect to it particularly well. I also feel like this deck is trying to please me far too much. I think it feels like it's almost like a puppy right now, and I need it to have like a bit more maturity to it before I can like really take it and work with it extensively and in depth with other people. But this devil card is definitely one that I just do not like. I am just like uncomfortable looking at it. I'm like, I don't know, man. And I think a little bit more time with cards and looking at what they have is important. The death card is also one that sometimes I look up. The devil and death can be very gruesome. I'm just not somebody who wants to see blood and gore. There are definitely cards though that I think, like, usually death is done in such a respectful way that I'm not having a problem with it. But the devil card is usually like, if there's going to be a dark, gritty card, it's going to be the devil card. And that's like I got to cut out and peace out. Because this is one of those cases where, yeah, this is just not my favorite and I don't feel great about it. Kind of tangentially to that is usually I'll look up the lovers right after the devil. So if I like the devil card, I often want to see if they've tied in the lovers at all. In the original Rider-Waite-Smith, it's like a mirror image, but with the angel Gabriel versus having the devil in between them. And I think that's can be an incredibly important picture for a client, or if I'm reading for somebody, especially in like the videos and stuff. It's an easy thing to point out and be like, you're having like this transformation from both sides depending on which way you're going, and it can be very nice to have that picture of like, here is the very clear imagery for you that these things happen. I don't know if I really care necessarily about any of the minor arcana because I think there's such good interpretations that usually I'm just excited to see how they've interpreted something, that I'm fine with whatever is chosen for interpretation. I don't really have anything particular that I absolutely need to have out and about, if that makes sense. The devil card is the short answer. And then if there is a card in a deck you don't like, would you want to miss out on it? Occasionally, yes. There's just sometimes a card that I don't want to see when I'm doing things. I don't want to look at. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is I sometimes I avoid, like I said, I avoid my Wise Dog Tarot because I don't like the devil card in it, and it's like so uncomfortable for me. But I do think that part of that is that I'm new to tarot in some senses, and that I am still learning a lot and trying to figure out what I like and don't like and what I do and don't do and stuff. There's just figuring out stuff for me is really what it is. But yeah, I think there's definitely something for saying, if I don't like it, I don't want the deck. That's very much, yeah, a thing for me. So all right, next question. What is your favorite and least favorite cards in tarot, and why? I don't know if I necessarily have a least favorite card. I think some people might say like the Tower, but like the Tower is so, it's like you're in the place you're supposed to be, especially if it's like a present, like if you feel like you're being like torn apart. It's like, okay, this is supposed to be happening. And the nice thing is that on the other side of the Tower, we're gonna have time and we're gonna have a moment to recollect and focus and get back to where we were. And like the same thing with the Sun. People are like, oh, the Sun is always good. I really loved Queering the Tarots, I believe by Cassandra Snow. Her take on the Sun, especially paired with the Tower, was like, just be careful what you wish for, because you might get it and it might not be as good as what you think. And I think that's like such an important thing to remember, like, oh, right, that this might not be as good as I think it should be. It might be actually a really bad thing that this is working out for me. And I think that's important to like remember. So what do people close to you feel about tarot and you doing tarot? So most people around me, my partner mainly, he doesn't care. He's so whatever about it. He's like, yep, that's a thing you do and have fun. He just really doesn't care. And I have found that for the most part, nobody really cares. I'm kind of just like the weird person as it is. I have some people who are interested, but like I very rarely get to read for anybody in my real life. Most people have no interest in it. They don't really care. My immediate family does not know. I grew up in a very Christian household, where things like the Ouija board and tarot cards were not really liked. My grandpa famously, I never met him. He passed away before I was born, but famously, I've heard multiple stories of how playing cards were just banned even in the household. And that was for gambling reasons. And so there is very much they don't know. If I make this a living, then they will find out. But like at this time, they don't know. That's not something that they're gonna be aware of at this point. But this is just for fun, kind of, in some ways. I shouldn't say that. This is a fun thing for me, is really what this comes down to, is that I like tarot because I like tarot. And I think that's part of this tag, is that I know with Tarot's Magic was saying like, I don't have a ton of tarot friends. And it was like, yeah, I also don't have a ton of tarot friends. I have a couple friends that I've kind of like swung into the tarot interest, I guess. They've bought a deck, they're interested. But like, for the most part, like I am the person who is like really interested in tarot and really interested in like doing tarot regularly or keeping up with it or doing it a lot. That kind of a thing. For the most part though, like most of my friends and stuff are like, yeah, I'm just like the oddball. And so tarot being something I do is not crazy or interesting. It's just like other things that I do. Like I do crafts and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think they're just like, oh yeah, that's just something she does. And so I think it's not that particularly exciting. How do you feel about the esoteric stuff in tarot? I don't know fully what this question means, since the term esoteric is kind of like, it tends to mean like a fine small group of people knowing something. And I don't know if it's like, do you think tarot needs to stay a small group? I don't think so. I think anybody can do tarot. And I also don't think that you have to be gifted your first deck of tarot is a thing, but I'm probably biased because I knew no one who did tarot, and I was not going to be gifted a deck of tarot in any way, shape, or form, I don't think, unless I was like really seeking out somebody. But if it's like, because I think I remember watching Tarot's Magics, and this might be the part where she was discussing like astrology, Kabbalah, all of those things. Like, what do you think about the various other forms of practice, I guess? Other systems that can be put into the tarot. So some decks have a nods to astrology or the Kabbalah. I think they're all great. I just don't know enough to always recognize those signs and know those imageries. I'm starting to look into astrology. I know nothing about the Kabbalah. I know, let's see, like, and I know the next question is actually about the Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, Marseille, and like, you know, the 3 different types, and then like why you pick what you have. So I think this partly ties into this, is that like Thoth is like extensive, I believe, in all of that, where it knows, or it really takes a nod to a lot of like astrology and the Kabbalah, and it's got really in-depth knowledge and takes in a lot of other pieces to really form very informed answers, I think, if that makes sense. So like, you're gonna get a really in-depth thing from like one card, and that can be really, really good. Not that tarot can't, and not that Marseille can't. I don't know a ton of the Marseille. Is it Marseille? Marseille? I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it wrong. I don't know a ton about it. I do know that's where like the Pip deck comes from. I need to look more into that. I need to look more into numerology, and I have a couple Pip decks. Like, it would be really good and beneficial for me to learn more about Marseille. Thoth just feels like it's gonna be like, I have to take on so much information to learn Thoth. I'm not against it. I just don't have a good source to learn it at this time. I also just feel like I'm learning still so much about the Rider-Waite-Smith decks that, like, man, I don't know. Like, there's so much still to learn on Rider-Waite-Smith for me. I think this is one of those things, though, that it would be really, really nice to have more time with the Rider-Waite-Smith before I move forward with the Thoth or the Marseille. I think that's my feelings. Next is cardstock. Now, I think, a bit more opinion on my, like, comparing the two Neopets tarot decks on my thoughts of cardstock, though it has slightly changed, I think, since then. I really don't mind just about any weight of cardstock. The one thing, though, is I need to be able to shuffle the deck, and that can be so hard if I can't riffle shuffle. I find that just to be far more random. If I'm just, like, hand over handing, it feels like my deck isn't getting shuffled. I don't know. I don't feel like the cards have a chance to shift and move in the way they need to. It feels like they kind of get stuck together and they end up in, like, little clumpies, and I don't like that. It's not my favorite. So I avoid it. Bags or boxes? Do I have a preference between bags or boxes? I think I lean toward bags. I also, like, I have two decks that I've made little, like, sleeves, little wraps for, and they're okay. The wraps are a little clunky. I find them a little too much work. Bags in general are fine to me. I like a drawstring bag. I specifically do not mind any of these, like, smaller boxes. These are fine. I don't mind these. Really, again, no hard preference. I do not like, though, these big book-size boxes. I'm sure they're beautiful on a bookshelf, but these drive me nuts because I just want the book itself. I'll put that on a bookshelf and the box can get thrown. I just need the deck to be, like, in a separate bag. So, like, I have two right now that are in this situation, the Tarot of the Owls and then Antique Anatomy Tarot that I have. Both of those are very much like I need to figure out a bag situation for them because I really don't like them. Wow, they currently sit. It's not fun. But yeah, for the most part, I don't mind having a box as long as it's smaller. But bags are probably what I would prefer. Just I don't know, there's something about a bag that makes it feel more personal and it feels like the deck can breathe. And I like that. How did I learn tarot or get into it? I have always had a fascination with cards. I have had a fascination with cards for a very long time. I used to collect playing cards, and this is why I heard so many stories of, how Grandpa would not have liked that, and his granddaughter is collecting playing cards, and that was a whole thing. So for me, do not mind that. I've always had something towards cards. I've always liked cards. I like deck building board card games. I like, various things. Something about cards has always been interesting, and tarot has always intrigued me. Like, you can read the future. You can, that's what I understood it as. You can tell the future with cards. Like, what do you mean? And that sounded so cool. I think if I had known about, like, Lenormand or reading playing cards, I probably would have tried to, like, sneak that in and, like, start learning that as when I was at home. But for the most part, I ended up just trying to, like, live my good little Christian life, and I ended up being like, oh, tarot decks, oh, tarot cards. Every time we went to the bookstore, I would be like, oh, look, tarot cards. And one day my partner just was like, you can get one, like, I don't care. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I picked up this deck, the Mystical Cats Tarot. I picked that up and I started to learn tarot, and I haven't looked back. I've loved it ever since. Best news in the tarot world you heard lately. I do not keep up with tarot news. And I'm also really bad at watching other tarot channels, and I think that's probably a rough thing. I'm sure there's probably some deck that I'm gonna want or something, but, like, to be perfectly honest, I'm actually really in a good spot for me personally that I'm like, I can do this. How many decks are on your to-get list? I did not think about this question at all before this. What is on my to-get list? I know there are decks that I would like. To be perfectly honest, I know there's some, like, inside joke that I'm still not fully understanding of the Llewellyn decks, like this cat and the owl tarot decks. I really want a bunch of these because I really just want to make my big mega deck of 6 to 7 decks. I just really want that. I want that to be a tarot style of reading that I do. I really want that to be a thing. So for me, that is something that I would love to have. Yeah. And that's like the next, I think, big goal is that I've been wanting to do this for as long as I've been into tarot. I haven't done it, but I've bought all these other decks, and now I'm like realizing, you know what? I need to pick something like a manufacturer or something and make a big deck. And I think it's going to be these Llewellyn decks. I like this like easy cardstock on them. They're easy to replace. I can mass order multiples if I need, and I can just kind of go from there, which I really like. So that's my plan. That's my next move. I think if I spend a lot of money on tarot, it's going to be that. I also think the one that is based off of Over the Garden Wall, I think is that the Unknown Tarot? I don't know. The one that's Over the Garden Wall is one that will probably be on my forever list of I would love to get it. I probably never will. It's just gotten to a point the secondhand market is so expensive. I don't particularly love trying to figure out if a deck is real or not. I know that's just like down to research and stuff, but like I don't personally want to do that research. So I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but that's on my list as well. If you could only keep 3 decks, which ones would you choose and why? Well, one of them is this deck. This is my personal deck, really. This deck and I have been here since the beginning. Hey, there's my Sky Tom. I've seen him so many times. We chat a lot, so this deck I feel the most connected. I get really good messages. I love a deck that's claws out, stays, it's going to tell me what it wants, tell me what it needs. It's not going to pull its punches. It's going to tell you what's up, and this is that deck for me. It comes out and it will scratch you, and I'm not offended by that. I need that a lot of the time. I really need a deck that screams in my face and tells me no. So I really appreciate that about this deck. And so this deck is for sure one of them. I love this deck so much. One of my other ones is, as you saw before, the Mystical Medleys. I think this would be probably like, instead of having just like the Rider-Waite-Smith, I would have this deck because I have some personal love for the art and stuff that I actually pull from this pretty well and sometimes more impactfully than the Rider-Waite-Smith. So this one for sure. And then a Neopets deck, probably the Geekify one, just because it's harder to get. But yeah, I would probably do these 3, and that would be it. The problem with this would be that like the only one I would be willing to read with others more comfortably, I should say, is this deck. And so this would be like a personal kind of a thing. If I'm reading for others, the decks change dramatically because I'm far more down to read with others. Like this would get switched out for my fairy edition. This would probably get swapped out for just the Rider-Waite-Smith because it's just, that's what people know. If they've gotten tarot readings, they often know the Rider-Waite-Smith art. And it's not something like a gimmick or anything. It just feels like very safe. And then I would probably put the Shadowscapes Tarot. The imagery is just so gorgeous and so beautiful that I think that this deck usually pulls really nicely and has so many things that I can point out and be like, this point here is where you are. Like, this is what's going on. And that can be really helpful for other people's reading. So yeah, this is like the personal for me. And then the other 3 are for other people. I don't know if that's cheating. Probably is, but that is how I feel if I'm going to keep only like 3 decks. If it was like I'm only doing readings like through a screen, I'd be fine probably reading with these 2 decks. If I'm in person reading though, I don't like bringing this my very nice Neopets deck because I like to keep it nice. I'm very precious about that one. I know that sounds probably a little insane, but I like to keep it nice. So how does knowing tarot influence your everyday? I think this is part of my also I just don't know tarot very well. I don't know my decks particularly well. I don't know I think there's just a lot of work still to be done for me, and I don't always see how something ties with an everyday situation. I'm missing the connections of how does this card connect with everyday life. I think that's where I'm missing the most. So yeah, I don't think it's particularly impressive. I don't know. I don't have a lot of personal connection every day. That's the answer. If you could turn back time, would you have learned tarot any other way? like I said, I grew up in a place where I don't think it would have been safe for me to learn it much sooner than I did. I honestly think this is fine. I wasn't mentally in a point to learn tarot until I was able to learn tarot. Like until I was in a relationship that was with somebody who was like, I don't care what you end up doing religiously or spiritually. I love you, and it's fine with however way you end up being, kind of a thing. And it was really nice, that safe feeling that I had. And so for me, it was just like, I think I had to have that amount of time. I think I would have been fascinated by reading cards in high school or earlier, but I don't think I would have felt safe, and I don't think I necessarily would have felt comfortable doing it. It would have been like it would have been like my little secret kind of a thing, and I don't think I would have wanted that to be the way it was. Yeah, I think that's mainly what it is that I just didn't know. I didn't know. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm glad where I am now, to be honest. I think I'm really happy with how things went, the way they went, and when they went. I think it's actually a really good thing. Okay, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the Three of Swords? So I'm going to pull a bunch of Three of Swords, and then we will come back to that question. So what are my thoughts on the Three of Swords? I pulled Three of Swords kind of randomly from 8 different decks. You saw me pull some of them before in past decks, but I grabbed some just so that we have images. And this is the Rider-Waite-Smith, the classic, that, Three Swords in the thing. And the reason that question is here is Tarot's Magic spent a lot of time talking about the Three of Swords. This was actually the card that she said that she looks up in a deck, and it's very important to her. She really wants the Three of Swords to be impactful and have the imagery that I think she really prefers to have. It was actually really cool to hear somebody talk about Three of Swords, because I've never heard somebody talk about Three of Swords in the sense of like, it's a point of growth. This is a time to realize that you are going to go through this pain and have it, turn itself around. I've always just thought about it as like grief and heartbreak, but I suppose I've never thought about the fact that like there's growth that happens in grief, there's growth that happens in heartbreak, and while typically neither of those pains will ever go away, you end up being able to move forward, if that makes sense. I personally love the Neopets Tarot one. If you know about Alucin and Jadora, that is what is being depicted here, and there is so much like what did happen between them lore. There is a lot of speculation that they were lovers. The Three of Swords really is for me in this card is so much of a divisive, like, where do you stand on it? And it's such a fun card for me to be like, there's heartbreak, there's heart there. In certain lore, they've started to work kind of together, but they really don't like it. There seems to be something going on there. And, yeah, it's for me, lore-wise, it's a very interesting card to pick. But I think what I've more traditionally thought of with the Three of Swords is more depicted in the Mystical Medleys version, where it's like, hey, this might hurt. You're going to end up in this, like, it's this, like, Cupid kind of moment of, like, hey, Cupid's coming to strike you, and it's not with a fun little bow. It's with a sword, and it's going to hurt, and this is going to be painful. But I never thought about the fact that, like, afterwards, you kind of grow from that and you can have a real growth moment, which I think is far more better depicted in this one from the Landscape Tarot, where it's like, in order for the polar bear to live, something has to die. And I think that's a very circle of life moment, and like remembering that. I think that's a really good way of depicting it. So yeah, I didn't really think much of the Three of Swords before, and I think this was a really cool question to have. Onwards to how many decks do I have? I had to sit and count. I have 16 tarot decks and 12 oracle decks. I just moved, and most of these decks I had to dig out of boxes, so I'm hoping I grabbed all of them. I think I did. If you could befriend one person on Tarotube in the tarot world, who'd it be? Who would again, this is coming to my point of I don't watch enough Tarotube. sadly. I should really be aware more. The first person that I really came across, I think, was Danny Mystic. Do I think me and Danny would be friends? I don't know. I think she'd be somebody who would be fascinating to sit down and get like a coffee or something with. I think she's got so much knowledge, and her style of reading is so cool. I think it's just like, I would love to listen to her theorizing about reading cards in general, and I think that'd be so cool and so amazing. But I don't know if I don't know if we would be friends. And it's not to be like offensive. It's just like, I don't know if we would vibe. I just don't know. I think I would probably vibe more with Lisa Pepez, but that's not, I don't know. Again, I just don't know. I also, I think with part of me is I'm so skeptical about like not Tarotube, just like anybody on YouTube, because I'm getting the edited version of somebody. So I don't know what they're necessarily like. I'm getting the, hey, I know the camera's on version of somebody. So I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily know what somebody is like outside of it. I know Danny and Lisa have done, I think they had their like Glitter and Gator. Is that what it was? I don't remember. They had a podcast together. And so like there is, I feel like a little bit more of like, you can get the vibe from that, but yeah, I think there's also a bunch of tarot tubers that I just haven't discovered. So that question probably will end up being like, yes, I want to be friends with this one person, but I just don't know who yet. Like, kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I need to like spend more time on Tarotube, and I don't. So, what is your favorite part of the day to do tarot? Whenever I can do it, and whenever I actually feel like doing it. I don't like daily card pull or anything. I probably should, just so I learn the cards more. It's probably why I'm not learning the cards as fast. I'm just so uncomfortable reading for myself, which is why I started doing this, because I wanted to read for other people. I'm nosy. Let's be real. I'm nosy. I want to know what's going on in everybody else's life. I want to know your drama. I don't want to know my drama. I don't need a deck of cards to tell me that, hey, girl, you gotta fix yourself. Like, I know that. I'm aware of that. I just don't want to. There's a lot of that. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to do it. Oh, you know what? I think I have an answer. Evening before bed. I have always liked the idea of doing pull a card at the end of the day, because then I can like use it to reflect on the day. I like that a lot more than starting my day with a tarot card, because then if, say, I pull like the Tower or something, and I'm like sitting the whole day dreading something to happen, and it's like, no, actually, you know, I don't want to like manifest the card. I want to be able to look back and go, oh, this is the part of the day that I would do that. Maybe I'll start doing that. Probably won't, but I should try. And then a confession. I don't read guidebooks. I really should. I wish I was a reader of tarot stuff. I have a very hard time reading any tarot info. It takes me forever. And I really want to do like a tarot book club. Like, I would love to be able to like sit down and like take the Neopets tarot and be like, you guys, we're going to sit down and we're going to read through the guidebook together. That'd be great. I don't think I can do it though. I think it would be really hard. And I know I said, like, I want to do a whole dive through of the Neopets. I think I just love Neopets enough to be able to do that. But I don't think I love any other deck enough to, like, sit and read their guidebooks. I've read the Mystical Cats guidebook, and I've read, like, one or two actual tarot books. Otherwise, past that, I really haven't done much. I've done very little reading. Most of my tarot knowledge comes from like one card lookups and doing maybe a study or something. I started doing a study on the Shadowscapes tarot as I was reading the book, and I was like writing down a singular keyword, and that was really good to like get to know the deck, but I only got through like half the major arcana and then I gave up. So there's definitely stuff that I would love to do, but I haven't. And so yeah, I would like to be a better reader, but like I don't think that's gonna happen, and I need to find the people out there who are like, I read the guidebook, let me like go through every card for you. Here's my like hour and a half long video about going every card and talking about like, here's what this author or this artist or both wanted depicted in this and what they really wanted discussed in this card, and I think that would be really cool. But yeah, that's what I got. I hope this was of interest. I think this was a fun thing and a fun little get to know me. And let me know if you've done this challenge, if somebody else has done this challenge, that you love the responses. I think I'm going to try to watch some more in this tag because I really like it. And it's such a good get to know me like tag. So I think this is a really good snapshot of some, like what a channel might be about. So I think I want to go and look some more and try to find some new tarot channels. I just got so excited I wanted to film my own. So yeah, if you have interest in this, feel free to answer any of the questions below. I would love to hear other people's answers. So yeah, or if you did it, let me know. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay magical, and hopefully see you sooner than the last time.